The Anatomy of Insight. J. Krishnamurti in dialogue with Asit, Chandmal, and Professor David Bohm, discussing computer's effect on man. Recorded in Ojai, California, April 1st, 1981.
Asit, you know him, of course. I'll talk for a while so as to give you a rest. He and I have been talking about the nature of computers. I also met several experts from America and India, and as far as I can make out, what thought can do, the computers can also perform. They can learn, they can correct themselves, they can beat the master chess players. They have their own artificial intelligence. They can be programmed, and the more astute, clever, and informed the programmer, the greater the capacity of the computer. And it can solve problems quicker than the human brain. And the thought creates its own intelligence. And the intelligence of the computer is perhaps equal to that of the intelligence which thought has created. As we are programmed to a certain extent, like the Catholic, Protestant, the Hindus, Buddhists, and so on, so is the computer. And then what is true intelligence? The artificial intelligence of the computer, and perhaps the thought which creates its own intelligence is also artificial. So, what is intelligence which doesn't belong to either? And if the computer can do almost all the things that thought can do, then what happens to man? Man has lived by thought, has created this world of thought, not nature. He's created the world, economic, social, religious world. And the problems which thought has created, thought cannot solve them. And it may solve economic problems, it may solve social problems, but I question whether it can ever solve the psychological problems. It can't. So, if the computer takes over the activities of thought, and it can diagnose, correct itself, learn, and so becoming more and more and more informed, function on its knowledge as human beings do, then what is man then? That's the real question. What is a human being who has lived on memory, on experience, on knowledge, which the computer can have all that, because it can learn, correct itself, and increase its own knowledge, and perhaps discover new things, then what's going to happen to man? Now you carry on from there.
Well, so you stated the problem.
Yes.
And if Dr. Bohm agrees with what you have said, then only the questions have validity and we can explore the questions further. So the first...
Perhaps we should first discuss whether this is true, that...
Exactly.
Because not every person who works with computers accepts all this. It doesn't look likely that the computer would solve economic or political problems because they are connected with psychological problems.
I see.
And but I think, there's no doubt the computer can do a great many things that thought is doing and can do much more, but whether it can do the whole of what thought is doing is not clear. No?
See, as in Japan, what I read a little bit about this time magazine, one of these magazines, the computer and robot are cooperating together to build a car. When the computer discovers the robot is not doing properly, the computer corrects the robot, and the robot functions correctly.
So all those operations are analyzed, beforehand.
Of course. Programmed completely.
But you see that there is some question as to how far this could go. You see that in the nature of thought itself, that in order to carry out a logical train of thought, it is necessary to make certain assumptions and categories and axioms, or whatever you want to call them. And there's a man called Gödel who has shown that it is not possible to get a closed set of assumptions. You see that if you say the assumptions are complete, they will be inconsistent. In order to be consistent, they must be incomplete. There are more of them and more and more. Now, so the system is open rather than closed. You see. Now, this sort of problem is it's like this: that a certain set of assumptions may be consistent in a certain context, but if you want the computer to go outside that context to run everything, then it's necessary to change the assumptions as you go along.
You repeat what you said.
No, it's true. Gödel's theorem is a limitation on computers. And my contention is that the same limitations would apply to the human brain.
No, it doesn't. I should think that there's an ability to, with the human brain we can change the assumptions when we find they're not working.
I'll explain what I mean. There's also a second limitation on computers, which is the speed of electricity.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that aside for the
time. That's not so important at the moment.
Now, to start with, we are not saying that computers will ever become omniscient or omnipotent or become God and solve all problems. We are saying that whatever human thought can do, computers can do. And human thought itself has tremendous limitations. So Gödel's theorem, quite rightly, is a limitation on any logical system. So two questions arise. One is the human brain also operating in the same way, based on assumptions, extrapolation, deductive, inductive logic, and therefore has the same limitations as imposed on a computer by Gödel's theorem? That's the first question. The second is, at what point do these limitations start applying to these very large computer systems? Do they get to a point where they're already performing much better than human brains are performing before these limitations start applying? And the third point is that essentially I think what Gödel says is that a system on its own cannot be consistent and complete. It has statements that you can either
no
prove
finite system. Right?
No finite system. But if the system is unable to tackle a certain set of problems because you run into contradictions or incompleteness, you could have other computer systems tackling those problems.
No, they will run into the same problem.
Yes, they will. This is the way human beings function at the moment. A human brain has a limitation. Say, I don't know much about medicine. So I go to another human brain who knows a great deal about medicine, and together we try and solve my medical problem.
Right.
But his brain also has limitations. So all I'm saying is that computers do have limitations, but so do human brains.
Well, I question that. You see, that is, I think people may actually happen to work that way, but it's not necessary. You see, people may work in terms of fixed assumptions, but there's no reason why they should, except whatever habit or tradition. That when you see an assumption is not working, then you see that you can see the contradiction. Whether a computer can see contradiction, I don't know. But
I think that could be done. You could program a computer to ensure that there are no self-contradictory assumptions within it. But you would have the other problem.
There's no way to do that.
Incompleteness problem would be there.
Yeah.
But the consistency problem could be there.
Well, no, because you see, the computer there would always be new situations where any set of assumptions would fail to be consistent. You see that any set of assumptions is consistent in some limited set of contexts, and in some new set of contexts it may fail.
Are you saying that the human brain doesn't operate that way?
No, I think a computer is a sort of a tremendous simplification of the human brain. That I think human brain is infinite myself, and the computer is finite.
How would you... I'm not clear on this. The human brain is programmed.
Partly.
Yes, programmed.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
You're born with a set of programs, right? The inherited programs. Your heart starts functioning like that.
Mm-hmm.
The child is obviously programmed to learn. A 6-month-old baby can't speak English or can't play chess. 20 years later it can. So obviously some programming process.
Well, it's not certain that any program has made it learn. You see, that's an assumption, which, it's very hard to prove a thing like that there exists such a
You
program.
said something just now, that the human brain is infinite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it is, personally.
Yeah, I think so too.
Just a minute. But for that infinite to move, work, live, thought must come to an end.
Well, you have to look at that. You see, what is thought? And
Yes, please.
because in some, you may say there's a certain kind of thought which is programmed, but then there may be a more open kind of thought that is not fixed on programs. You see.
Is there such a thing? I've been questioning it.
Well, how could you show there is or isn't? You see.
You see, I think what he's saying is, since the brain is infinite.
Which is also an assumption. We don't.
No, I wouldn't call it an assumption.
Well, let's treat it as one for the moment.
Huh?
We might
There's no way
treat
of
it
proving
that
that either.
I think one can prove it.
Let's treat it as an assumption. We'll accept it.
We'll accept
All right.
assumption. Let's
All
call
right.
it an assumption for the moment. And as he says, there may be different kind of thought, which is not born of knowledge.
Not limited by knowledge.
Huh?
Also not limited by knowledge.
And of course,
Are you saying there may be a different kind of thought not limited by knowledge? Then one would need to define thought. Or there might be a different kind of operation of the brain not limited by thought.
yes, all right, put it that way, right?
Yes, well, you see, I think we have to sort of try to understand thought. And you see, if we were to take an example like the body, which might be non-mechanical, but it produces the bones by depositing calcium. And the bones have a mechanical structure which can be approximated by stainless steel or plastic, right?
All right.
Although only approximated. Now then, nevertheless, the bones are not mechanical, right? Now, the bones are necessary to give a certain firmness to the body. But if you deposit calcium in the wrong place, like the arteries, it's wrong, you see. Now, we could say that we have calcified thought.
Yes.
Mankind has been caught in calcified thought, but there might be another kind that is not entirely calcified.
So is there another kind of thought which is not born of knowledge, which is limited? Right?
So if you're using the word thought, what do we mean by thought? Thought, as I understand it, is a process of memory and knowledge and playing around with
I think we are, if I may introduce another word, insight. Right, sir? Insight is not the result of thought.
So before we come to insight, I would still like to find out whether let me put it this way. Would you be uncomfortable with the use of the word thought in another form, thought which doesn't act upon knowledge and memory? I am uncomfortable with it. And therefore we have chosen the word insight, or you have chosen it. I think it's an important issue. Because
which is an important issue.
The issue being that thought can never act excepting out of knowledge and memory. Because if that is so, then the implication is the computer can do it and can do it much better. And then what happens to human beings? Because then it becomes very important to find this other thing inside.
The other thing.
Yes. So, but if one says that there is a process of thought which is not born out of knowledge and memory, which is the other thing, which cannot be repeated by computer, then one is saying something quite different, because then one has to examine that statement. You see what I'm getting?
Now wait a minute. Thought is the result, is reaction or response or the outcome of memory, knowledge, experience.
Conditioning.
Right? We agree. It's a material process. We agree to that.
Yes. Okay.
Right, sir?
Well, I think we should, there's some more that, you see, I think we could discuss the distinction of thought and intelligence and how sharp it is. You see, I think there are three words which are very closely related. One of them is select, the other is collect, and the third is intellect. You see, they're based on one root, leisure, meaning to gather. Now, you see, when we gather things into categories which are different, selected from other categories. Now, if they are rigid, then we have ordinary thought. But in intelligence, I think the categories are not rigid. You see, you gather from in between, and you do not form fixed, rigid categories.
Yes.
But then they may gradually fix, as memory takes hold of them.
So, let's go into the question of intelligence first, and then come back. Apparently, from what Asit and others have said, that the computer hasn't, by being programmed, learning and discovering for itself new axioms and so on, has its own artificial intelligence.
Yes, I wonder.
Huh?
I wonder if it has intelligence in that sense.
They say it has.
Yeah.
In that sense, meaning computers have done several things which 5 years ago nobody would have imagined them doing. Examples of which I can give. They're given in that book also, which to most people would mean that it has discovered or it has invented new things, or it's capable of thinking. To quickly run over these examples, one is that it is certainly demonstrated that it can find totally novel proofs for various theorems which nobody else has thought of before. And if the process of discovery can be defined as something which has not been taught to you, nobody else has thought of it, and you think of it, that's a reasonably good definition, then the computer certainly has discovered very elegant and novel proofs for theorems which no human being has thought of. And the example given in this book, it's a very simple example, is that if you want to prove that the base angles of an isosceles triangle are equal, the computer flipped it over by 180 degrees and proved that two triangles were congruent. And according to this book, a famous mathematician, when told about this, said that if one of my students had done it, I would have called him a budding genius. Such an elegant way. Now, nobody had programmed the computer to do it this way. The other example the book gives is the four-color problem. If there are lots of counties in England or states in the US, if you want to draw a map and if you want to ensure that no two states or no two countries have the same color, no adjacent countries, it's quite easy to work out that 3 colors is too few and 5 colors is too much. It's 4 colors you can do it. But nobody was ever able to prove this. People knew it, nobody could find a counterexample. Well, they programmed the computer to do it, and the computer was able to prove it. Which, according to this book, happened in 1977 and rocked the mathematical world. Then the third thing, this is like the Turing test. The third thing it said was this. The Turing test is, I'm sure you know about it, it essentially says if there's a human being in another room, you have a computer terminal, and there's a computer in the next room and a human being at the next room. And you converse on the terminal, and you don't know whether it's the computer responding or the human being responding. If you can't make out who is responding, then Turing said, and most people accept this, it's a valid test that the computer can think. So now, what happened was that 3 years ago, they took an international grandmaster, his name is given, Ivan Lendl, and they had him play a match in Toronto with, 3 years ago, the leading chess computer champion of the world, the computer champion of the world, chess champion. 2 things happened. It doesn't say who won the match, but Lendl said after the match that the computer made uncannily human moves. He really didn't know whether he was playing against a computer or a human being, and as far as he was concerned, it had passed the Turing test. And they've shown this move-by-move chess game to many chess experts, and no expert can really make out which side was the computer and which side was the human being. And this was an international chess master playing. He has given other examples like this, and this was 3 years ago. The rate of growth in this technology is so phenomenal that by now they're already, I'm sure, doing many more things. So one does find that, and he says that anybody who has really programmed the computer to talk, converse with itself, comes up with the most, even if he has programmed the computer himself, is astonished at the unpredictability of the computer's responses. So, now this is still in its infancy, the computers have been around only 25 years, human beings have. But the rate of growth is so fast that it's inevitable that for the end of the century, at least, you would have computers capable of carrying on conversations on virtually everything, and nobody would know the difference. So what I'm getting at is that if this is so, and computers are much faster and have more infallible memories than human beings, that everyone knows, then 2 things could happen. One is that one might abdicate more and more of the thinking functions to the computer, like children do with calculating machines. They forget how to multiply or never learn how to. One doesn't know the effect of that. Will that atrophy the muscles of the mind? One doesn't know. If it does, the consequences can be very dangerous, like body atrophying because you've got cars. However, if it doesn't atrophy the human mind, what is left of the human mind if computers can do it much better? Is there anything left at all? Are we, in fact, then an endangered species, which so far has survived because of the use of the brain and improving the brain, but now something else is going to be much better at it? So the dying out of this species.
Yeah, well, I think that there are 2 questions. You see, one, that the computer will take over all these more mechanical functions of thought. You see, I think formal logic is mechanical, you see, and I'm not surprised that a computer can do it better than a man. That, say, any formal logic consists of making certain assumptions and coming out with whatever is implied. As long as the assumptions are fixed, the computer should eventually, or even now, perhaps do it better than any human being.
He says, you say it's not an assumption.
I think Dr. Bohm agrees that the computer, probably even now, can do a much more rigorous logical analysis of a situation given certain assumptions.
Yes.
Am I right? Okay. Therefore, the question arises that only in the irrational area the brain might be better than a computer, which if I may state it that way.
No, only when the assumptions are not fixed, you see, that as long as you can fix the assumptions, the computer will work out all the consequences. But when you come to an area where the assumptions can't be fixed, then I'm not convinced the computer can handle it.
How do you mean by the assumptions not being fixed? When does a human being change his assumptions? For example, let me try and give an example if I've understood you correctly. I try to run from here to Los Angeles and I find I can't do it. So I change my assumption that I can run from here to Los Angeles and I try and catch a bus. Is that an example of...
No, I think that would be rather trivial.
Can we give a better example?
Well, you see, I think that there has been a tendency in modern mathematics to treat it as nothing but formal logic. I think that is a very backward step, you see, which is mechanical, and it's not surprising that eventually the computer will do it better. You see, I think mathematics is more of an art form than it is a form of logic, and that basically in mathematics you have an equation, you say A equals B, but it's only interesting when A is not equal to B, you see. You assert the equality of things that are different. And what that means is that it becomes interesting just when logic has broken down, when this indicates some new implicit structure which you perceive, you see. So I think that the interesting point of mathematics is not logic or proof, which never is perfect anyway, because you can't be certain of it.
This friend of mine who worked at Lawrence Livermore and at Stanford told Krishnaji and me, but I must get hold of the exact paper, but he said this. He said they programmed the computer in Stanford, they fed it some axioms, and asked it to deduce various theorems from it. They also built into the computer criteria about what was an interesting theorem and what wasn't, and drop it if it isn't interesting, and pursue it further if it's interesting. And then they asked the computer to work on all this for a period of time and print out everything it had thought of, in inverted commas. But not only did it print out several novel proofs of it, known theorems, it evidently printed out theorems which hadn't been known before.
Yes, well, you see, I think that anything that you can organize in that way, the computer can do. But the interesting thing in mathematics is always that any program you put up beforehand is limited, and that it will lead to something new which was not in the program, you see. That is the interesting feature.
I think what we are...
A great deal of what mathematicians do is, what you have demonstrated is that a lot of what people is doing is mechanical. I'm very ready to agree to that.
What do human beings do, which is the human brain, which is not mechanical?
Well, just what I said, that when the logic breaks down and you discover some new implications, that no computer could do it, you see, unless it was told that was the sort of things it should look for, you see.
I would say insight is not mechanical.
Insight being the ability or the process of instantly seeing through a problem.
Yes.
That's what it is. So no process of thought or logic is used.
No.
It is not intuition, it's insight.
No, insight. That's not based on knowledge, not based on experience, remembrance. It's not involved in time. It's an insight, perception.
It's an instantaneous...
Immediate perception action. That's not mechanical.
And are you also saying that in order for that to take place, the mechanical must come to an end?
Obviously. Right, sir?
Well, you can't be dominated by the mechanical. See, the computer is controlled entirely by the mechanical, although you may make it more and more subtle.
Tell him about the computer plugging itself.
This was also at Stanford. They made a computer, if you pull the plug out, it will go look for a socket and plug it in.
I think all those things can be worked out, you see.
But I think the key question, what Krishnaji is saying is that there is such a thing as insight, which has nothing to do with knowledge, memory, experience, and thought.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing. I would say that it's not based on those,
Yes, it's not based on that. Put it that way.
Okay, it's not based.
So it's not based on assumptions which thought makes,
That's right.
Now, in order for insight to take place, my question is, does this process have to come to an end?
Well, I think the mechanical logical process must come to an end.
Must come to an end. Now, if that is true intelligence, why do we continue in this process? Why doesn't it come to an end?
What?
The mechanical, the
laborious. You see,
that's a different question. That's a different question altogether.
It is a different question. Yeah, but so this is the reason why I've got so interested in computers. The only function in this, it doesn't come to an end.
Well, unless you pull out the plug.
Now they'll say...
The computer will stop you from pulling out
No,
the plug.
no, the computer now say they'll...
Solar energy.
Solar energy.
But see the point, so let me make my point, sir. We are caught in this process. We are not coming out of it into insight.
No.
So we only know this.
Yes.
And this
That is what we are programmed to that.
Yes. And this, the computer will be able to do much better. So what is left of us?
That's what we are saying, thinking.
Now, the more mechanical features of thought clearly can be done by a computer. Which
That's all. But
thought is many of these features which people thought were not mechanical are. You see, a lot of mathematics is mechanical. You see, I think proofs are mechanical. They say that they're merely working out from the assumptions to the conclusions. And
would you say Einstein's theory of relativity was something different from a child proving a theorem for the first time?
It wasn't a proof. You see, there's no way to prove it. See, the perception or the insight of the need for relativity was a flash of perception, and from there on he began to work it out, and a lot of that was mechanical, you see.
Yeah, insight is, and working out is mechanical.
Well, relatively so, anyway.
Yeah,
You may need a bit more insight as he works it out. But
Quite.
So you are saying that the concept of relativity is insight. A Beethoven symphony is insight.
for Mozart, yeah.
And then the actual writing it out and playing it is mechanical.
What?
The actual working it out later on is
Yes,
mechanical.
mechanical.
But there is this process of insight.
What are you trying to say, Asit?
All I'm trying to say, sir, is this happens obviously extremely rarely. How many Einsteins or Beethovens have there been? Okay. For almost all of us, we are caught in a process which a computer can do much better.
Well, I think the rarity is irrelevant, you see. It just happens that people tend to be caught in the mechanical.
Yes.
But you see, the fact that it's rare doesn't make it less significant.
No. I'm saying is that to virtually all of most people in this world, the only thing they have which makes them really function is their brains. That's the reason they've dominated this earth as opposed to any animal species. And if there is going to be another species which has a better brain in this sense,
well, I'm not sure it will, you see.
That's an assumption.
Well,
actually, let's get something which is clear and simple. As far as I can make out, correct me, and please, sir, too. Thought is mechanical. As we now use thought is mechanical. That's based on experience, knowledge, memory, action, logic, and all the rest of it. From that there is action. From that action you learn, which is the same process going on. Right? That is mechanical.
clear.
And the machine can do that far better than us. Right?
Yes,
there's always a limit to that in the sense that any mechanical system being limited, reality being unlimited, there must be some check by some human being who is beyond the mechanical. At some stage, the computer may do something disastrous.
Yes.
And the computer, right?
But it's not human beings.
Yeah, but that's because human beings are imitating computers. But you see,
what I'm saying is that I'm perhaps repeating myself. The computer is not going to be all perfect, but neither are human beings.
Well, that's another question.
I think this question, so let's get back to this question of Einstein or Beethoven. Those, I wouldn't say are insights, they are partial insights, sir. Because look at their lives.
Of course, that's understood. Now don't... So we are saying thought is mechanical, because it's based on its knowledge. And is there thought which is not mechanical?
Is there thought which is not mechanical?
That's what he writes.
Perhaps there is. You see, there may be that.
There may. That's why I inquire.
Because perhaps thought has become mechanical because it's being used wrongly.
Even if you used it rightly, it's still based on knowledge.
No, if you hold the assumptions absolutely fixed, that is what makes it mechanical, you see. Then it's like a machine. You see, people have made assumptions about everything and say that they're absolutely true, they're absolutely fixed. Right?
No, of course not.
That makes it mechanical. Now, you see, I say intelligence does not make such fixed assumptions, but it reads between the lines. So intelligence will gather information from all over without putting it into fixed categories. Now, thought is mechanical because it puts information into predetermined fixed categories, do you see what I mean, which are absolutely fixed. Now, that's what the computer does. You see, in order to classify your information, it has to be gathered and put into categories like here and there and now and then and before and after, inside and outside and so on, you see. Now, if that is absolutely fixed, the computer can do it better, you see. But, so we have... What happened, it seems to me, is that man became a computer. And then he made another computer, which made it better eventually.
What he's saying?
Yeah, what he's saying is that human beings have become badly programmed by slow computers.
And therefore he's created a computer.
Yeah, we can do that better. But are you also saying a computer couldn't work in an unstructured situation? Is that
unless there was some predetermined structure, I don't know how could it work.
That's what I'm not sure.
I mean, what could it do? I mean, it must be given some instructions.
It can learn.
It can learn.
But only if it's given instructions before. You see, it cannot learn from nothing, you see.
But is that different from human beings?
Well, I think human beings have insight which can remove wrong structures, dissolve them or alter them. Or, you see, if you could make a computer with insight, then...
You see, the human being may have the capacity for insight. The computer has not that capacity because it's essentially programmed by a human mind, which is itself limited, and so on, so on.
But it's also in the mechanical structure itself. There's a limit to what can be done.
Yes,
it's a mechanical process, so it's limited.
Even if you had a human being with insight, he could not do better than the limits of the machine.
Yeah, in other words, the question is, can you program insight?
Yeah.
Let's assume for the moment you can't.
Yeah.
I'll come back to the human being. He is functioning as a computer, programmed computer.
Yes.
Now, we are saying that he also has this capacity for insight.
Capacity, he may have.
Potential.
If he doesn't have it, he's doomed. Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, of course.
Oh yeah.
So it becomes very important to find this capacity.
That's right.
How does it happen?
That's different. Now we are answering quite a different question.
Yes, but that is ultimately the question we keep coming to, isn't it?
Yes.
That then it becomes vitally important to find that capacity. Especially because the computer is being developed so fast. It wasn't as important 200 years ago, perhaps.
Perhaps. Yeah, perhaps not. Yes, it's hard to say. I mean, one doesn't know about the computer. Every development rises up and then it falls. It reaches a curve and falls. I think there are no linear developments that just go on forever.
Yes.
But the computer will go a long way, but then it probably will reach a limit.
At the moment, it's kind of exponential.
It's going way up, yes, but someday it's going to turn down.
Yes, but maybe it will reach a point about the human brain in that.
Well, in some ways, I mean, it may do mechanical thought better than the human brain.
But
mechanical function.
Yeah, but leaving the time frame out of it, it becomes vitally important to find this other capacity if it exists.
Yeah.
If it exists.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely vitally important.
So what do we do?
Now you are addressing a programmed slow computer to find a process of insight.
Yes. Put it to the computer. See what?
You're putting it to me, who is a programmed computer.
Yes. Yes.
You are telling me.
That's right.
Find the process, find it.
But you can't accept that that's all you are in the sense that you don't have a potential.
I have the potential.
Yeah.
But how do I find that potential? How do I express it? Do you see the problem?
I see the problem.
You are in fact asking a computer.
That's not the same, because if you asked a mechanical computer to have insight, it would be impossible, you see.
Because it doesn't have the potential.
It's limited potential, right?
But you are asking a programmed system.
No, I'm asking, as he pointed out at the beginning, that there may be a thought which is not programmed.
There may be a process which is not programmed.
And that may be the insight. And that insight, you are asking, as that is so important, how does it come about?
How can it come about in a system which is operating in this manner?
Yes. It cannot. Obviously. If my brain is programmed to function in a certain pattern, in a certain category and so on, all that has to stop. That's where the Hindus and the meditation began. I'm pretty sure that. To stop the whole process of thought.
Now, may I ask you a question? You know me extremely well.
Huh?
You know me extremely well.
Yes, I think so. Yes, go on.
Have you ever seen anything in my process of operation of my mind which is different from a program conditioned mind?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
I'm asking very seriously, sir.
Yes.
Because, all right, let me put it in another way. People only operate in this mode, the program conditioned mode.
No.
And you are asking them.
No. I'm asking something else. That when you are you are not hearing with the sensual ear, but hearing it inwardly. That we are absolutely silent. Right? Absolute silence. Then insight may take place. Perception, in which there is no division as me, the perceiver, and the perceived, right? Right? Absolute silence. Then insight may take place. Perception, in which there is no division as me, the perceiver, and the perceived, right? So conflict ends, and so the whole mechanical process of thinking with its conflict and that comes to an end.
Well, it's an interesting question. Would you think that a computer has a division of the observer, of the thinker and the thought?
Of course.
Huh?
It can be programmed to say the observer is the observer.
Well, I think the programmer is the observer, really, isn't he?
Yes.
I would like to say something to this.
Yes, go on.
Yeah. If a computer passes this Turing test, what is there to say that it doesn't have consciousness? Would you destroy such a computer?
Well, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is this: if there was a computer in the other room and the human being, and I'm interacting from here, and I don't know whether it's a human being answering or the computer, so I feel fairly certain that the computer is at least thinking as well as that human being is.
Mechanical.
It's thinking as well as that human being.
This is mechanical.
Mechanically only. Suppose, if we could see the computer does not have insight, you would have to give it much more subtle communication, which would see whether the computer has insight or not.
Yes, but how would you find out if I had insight or not?
Well, that's a question. Right?
Is it?
Oh yes, you can.
How, sir? If you could find out if I had insight.
Not if you had an insight. You may have the potentiality of it.
Could you find out by talking to me?
Oh yes.
Now, suppose if this is what I'm saying. You're talking to a computer.
I know what you're getting at.
So, you might feel the computer has a potential for insight. What I'm saying is, what is consciousness? Why would you think the computer doesn't have consciousness? If it prints out, I am conscious, why would you say it isn't?
May have. But what? Where is that leading us?
I'll tell you where it's leading us, sir. Why are we assuming? Why should I assume, not you?
Go on, let's assume.
That anything else exists?
No, I don't assume.
You don't assume?
No.
You don't assume?
No, I don't assume because I have an insight and do it, all the rest of it.
Now I find that I don't have these insights.
Why?
You must accept
No,
it.
why should I accept it?
Because you see the way I live.
Huh?
You see the way I live. That's
No. But you may have a partial insight.
It's not insight.
Well, why do you say no? I mean, see, there would be a difference. The computer would not have a partial insight.
But he says, the computer experts say it has.
Well, I don't agree with that. I think that if it's...
What I'm saying, sir, we'll leave computers aside for a moment, but I'm saying if the computer passed this Turing test, then there is no reason to believe that if it says I'm conscious, why should you say you're not conscious? I mean, what way would it become different from a human being? If it passed the Turing test,
suppose we're having a discussion of this kind, you see, with the computer, you see.
They're taking it all in.
Yeah, and the question is, what answers will the computer come up with?
No, I'm assuming that the computer has passed the Turing test. The Turing test.
But I don't. The Turing test is not good enough because you see, when you say the full test for a human being is, does he have insight?
But again, I ask my question: how would you know if a human being has insight? How would you know if I have insight?
I wouldn't ask a human being if he has insight.
Yes.
That would be a wrong question, I should think. But I would say that the mechanical process of thinking stop. The brain is perpetually occupied.
Now, supposing the human being, most human beings is perpetually occupied. Supposing the human being were to say yes, it stops. What next?
No, wait a minute. Either it stops because weary, tired, for various reasons, lack of oxygen and so on and so on. That's not insight.
No, that's not insight.
Of course.
The computer can do that.
But of course it can.
It can be in a wait state with nothing going on.
Of course it can.
So how would you find out if I have insight, sir?
Are you putting the right question?
The reason I'm putting that question is, we go back to computers. How do we find out if computers can think? That is the Turing test. Now we are saying, how do we know it has insight, the computer? So my question is, how do you know a human being has insight? How will you find out?
You yourself said Beethoven and Einstein had partial insight.
So what I would like to state is they did things that nobody has done before. It's extremely rare what they did. It's very significant. I wouldn't call it partial insight.
Huh?
I wouldn't call it...
I don't follow.
So they did something extraordinary. There are, I think, 4 billion people on Earth today, and there have been a lot in the past, and something happened to them, and something happened to them. That's all I'm willing to state. I'm not even willing to say that they did it. I don't know what happened.
I don't quite follow you.
Sir, you said that I said earlier, which I did, that they had partial insight.
We all said that.
We said that because, in a sense, I wanted to move on. But one really doesn't know what happened. Can one work out what happened to Einstein at that time, or to Beethoven?
I think one can observe it from oneself.
Sir, may I ask you a question? If you understand something, can you teach it to another human being?
If the other human being is willing to listen. Listen.
Yes. In other words, we are saying that if one could understand the process by which Beethoven composed the symphonies, Einstein got his flashes of perception, even if they could have understood it, they could have explained and taught it to others.
I think so.
They obviously were incapable of not only teaching it to others, but not doing it themselves.
It must be, insight can't be something totally disharmonious and lack of harmony. It must be your whole life, your way of, you follow, your behavior, everything must be in as a whole. That when that wholeness takes place, there is immediate insight. I think that's how it operates.
That's how it operates.
Right, sir?
Now, supposing
do you agree to that?
Yes, everything has to be together.
Okay.
It does have to be clear.
Yes. You're saying it's an integral process, it's not fragmented. It's now I'm asking you, and let's make an assumption that you have this insight.
Blessed matter.
If you understand the process...
Not the process.
Okay. If you understand...
It's more than a process.
Okay, if you understand... I think it will get clear if I try and find the right word, and if you say it's the right word. If you find the conditions under which insight can come into being?
No conditions.
Okay.
You see, you can answer it yourself, old boy.
So I'm trying to clarify. Are you saying it happens?
No. It is not by chance.
It's not by chance.
It's not by calculation.
Not by calculation. Not by conscious effort.
No.
As you said in your books, it comes uninvited.
Yeah.
Now,
No, uninvited in the sense, you see the problem, there is the problem. And you don't analyze it, you see it as a whole.
now I'm saying to you, sir, that I'm unable to see it as a whole. Help me. What would you do?
Oh.
No, sir.
Could I ask you a question and say, who is the computer talking?
It is, you see. Because I'm asking you literally to probe me to have insight.
But the computer can't do it.
The computer can't do this.
The computer can't do this.
I don't know, it may. Eventually, when it reaches the
What I'm saying, the
not
computer
right.
can't do it. I'm willing to accept that. I'm stating that a human being can't do it also.
I'm not sure, sir.
But if the computer is saying this, it just could be the program, couldn't it?
So I accept the computer can't do it.
No, but I'm
saying the
asking
human...
another question, that this very statement, you see, we're doing the, as it were, the Turing machine, or the Turing argument now, and not Turing machine, to say that we're talking, suppose I say we're talking with the computer, right? So you have said that you're a computer, so it's up to us to talk with the computer to see if it's a computer or not. This is the question.
Okay. I'm willing to state that I'm not a computer, I have the potential for it, but
Yes.
I will have a completely open mind on this because I want this insight. I really do. And I'm saying, can you help me? Can you teach me? Can you show me? Is there any way you can do this? That's what I'm saying.
I'm asking you, you've got it. You've got quick insights, about many things. I come to you and say, look, I would like to have that capacity. I may have the potentiality of it, but I like it fly, right? What would be my question? That I would like to have it? When I ask that question, it becomes mechanical. I don't know if you follow what I mean.
I follow that.
Huh?
That I follow.
So don't ask the question.
I'm not... No, sir. My question is, can you...
Wait, Einstein, don't... No. When you ask that question, you're asking for a system, for a method, wait, for some kind of information which you can manipulate, which you can organize, which you can categorize, all the rest of it. Now, if you ask the question without any of that,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Would you ask it?
Yes.
But wait, no.
Yes, sir. So, my question is, it's very simple. Give me an insight into insight for a moment, that's all. I don't want the system to be able to repeat it. That is my question.
I understand your question very well.
But you see, I think you're approaching it the way the computer would. As if the computer wanted an insight, it would ask what to do to get. You see, it's just the question the computer would ask.
You follow what he's all saying?
I follow completely. In fact, sir, it is confirming what I'm saying, that I can only operate like a computer. That's what I'm saying.
Therefore, don't operate like a computer.
That's my next question is, show me. This is the only thing I know. This is the only thing I know, sir.
David, can you teach me, seriously, can you teach me a thing which you have grasped? Let me put it badly, just get my meaning. Something that you have grasped immediately, something whole, you know what I mean? can you inform me about it, teach me so that I can learn it?
Well, not step by step.
Huh?
Not through a series of steps, I mean.
Can you convey that to me? That you have seen something so as a whole and therefore acted as a total human being without any contradiction, etc., etc., etc. And you act from there. Right? And I come to you as your disciple, as your whatever it is, and I say, please, inform me about it. Tell me whatever words you use. I want to capture that feeling of that something instantly taking place. Right? That's what you're asking. Now, wait a minute. We're going to inquire, please. What is the state of my mind that's asking this question? It's wanting something, right? It's grasping something. It says, if I could have that, my problems would be solved.
That's one state, but the state, I'm not in that state right now. Shall I tell you the state I'm in? See, here is a man whom I've seen, here is a man
Yes.
whom I've seen in his daily life of so many years. And he's been talking about it for so long, and obviously he has something. And I want a glimpse of it, not so that my problems would be solved, but I'm really deeply interested, curious, deeply, seriously. What is it? What? He's been saying it for so long, he's living it, he's doing it. What is it? Why is it escaping me? You follow? That's the state, not that I want it to solve.
No, I'm asking, what is the state of your mind which is asking this question? You getting it? You go slow. What is the state of my mind when I go to David? I'm going to call you David. For a long time I haven't. I go to David and say, look, sir, you have this insight. You see things as a whole. I can't. I'm not asking to solve. Having insight will solve my problems. I'm not interested in it. I want to learn or comprehend or feel that quality of a mind that is, right, whole. See what has happened? I have reached a certain point in myself to ask that question. I don't know if I'm making it clear. It's not mechanical. I've dropped the mechanical. Right? I've dropped it because I'm much more interested in that. So for this is in abeyance.
Yes, I think that's it. I might not have dropped it, but
it's in abeyance. It's down in the basement. Right? So is your mind?
Not sure about that.
You're getting what I'm talking about? Is your mind free when you're asking the question that is not functioning mechanically? That's what he's telling me.
I'm not sure if it's...
Are you asking this question mechanically?
No.
Or non-mechanically? Wait, stay. That's what I go to him and I say to him, sir, I'm quite sure I'm not acting non-mechanically. I'm not asking this question mechanically.
I can't make that statement. I really don't know whether I'm asking it mechanically. I really don't know.
Because I want to capture that.
That I want to do.
I want to understand what that thing is. So my mind is absolutely not knowing.
Yes.
Not knowing.
Yes.
Not expecting.
Wait.
Not wanting.
Wait, how can you say not Wanting, not expecting.
Of course. Not expecting something from him. I come to him and say, sir, I want to understand this insight may transform everything, etc.
Isn't that expecting, wanting?
No, I want to understand it, I want to feel it. I want to feel the contours of it, the smell of it.
Yeah, I think we should make the difference between expecting and this. You see,
expecting
and what you say. That expecting would be already to have some idea or feeling, right?
Of course, I'm not expecting.
Okay. So in that sense, I'm not.
I don't know what it is.
I don't know. I really.
Right? No.
Yes.
Therefore, I'm not waiting. As he said, not expecting. No,
I'm not. When I come to you, when I come to you,
yes,
and I tell you,
are you coming mechanically or non-mechanically?
I don't know, sir.
But find out, sir. Is your question born out of mechanical response?
No.
No. Therefore, I go to David. I'm very clear on this. I see he has got this quality of insight. Very strongly. He takes decisions, he does things without the operation of thought entering into his decisions. Right? See, when he says something, it's not thought out. What he says is non-mechanical. But he works it out mechanically.
It can be supported by thought later on.
Supported by... So, I am asking the question, knowing all this, I say, sir, what is this insight? I'm already in communication with it. I don't know if you understand, sir?
Why do you say you're already in communication?
Because my mind is free of the mechanical.
Yes, well that's the essence of insight.
Yes.
I mean, you're saying insight is natural if the mind is not mechanical.
It's not mechanical, it's not, what do you call it, born out of knowledge, it's not of time, it is immediate perception. And I'm not sure the computer can't do this. If my brain, which is mechanical, which has been for a million years has been mechanical, and David tells me, your brain is infinite. I see that immediately. But when he said that just now, I saw, but it is so.
That was insight.
That is
insight.
That has nothing to do with logic.
I know. Now,
right?
Yes, you saw it.
I saw, not see it, the infinite.
For you,
yes,
it was absolutely too instantaneous.
Yes.
Now, my reaction is, I don't know. Why do you say that? Prove it.
Yes.
How do you go about it?
Which is mechanical.
Yes, absolutely.
Which means what? You are listening with the sensual ear.
Yes.
Which is mechanical.
Yes.
What ear did you say? Sensual?
Sensual.
Sensual, yeah.
Yes. I'm saying that, sir. I'm saying that I'm doing that. When I see somebody else having insight, and so I say,
wait, so you see, if you say, if David tells me, meditate. If he says, make your mind quiet. If he says, it is necessary to have an absolute quiet brain when there is insight, for insight to take place. Which is not mechanical. Right? So, all those are time-binding. I don't use.
Yes.
So I dispense with all that. When he said infinite, right?
Yeah, I saw you light up. But you say you dispense with all that. That itself is a process of instantaneous.
When he said infinite, why didn't you jump?
I explained why. My reaction.
No.
It's still so, sir.
Huh?
It's still so. It is still, if you tell me the mind is infinite, I would still go through this. Why do you say that? How do you prove it? What makes you think? I don't see that it's infinite.
Which means what? The mechanical mind and the mechanical brain is tremendously active. Argument, logic, reason, opposing opinions and so on is moving that you're functioning with that program.
Yes.
Pull the plug out.
You're back, sir. We're back to that point.
I'm back to, of course we are back to that point. David tells me one thing, which is the brain is infinite. It's not because it's infinite, it's not personal.
You see, sir, you have... No, sir. No, I intellectually accept. You have an insight, the brain is infinite. If somebody says the brain is infinite, you have an insight. And then you move from that, from insight to insight. So your next insight is the first one. And that process, your process, please let me call it process, it's moving from insight to insight. My process is moving from logic, maybe bad logic is some
good logic,
testing, observation, all that. Now, I am saying that this stream and that stream
can't go together.
Can't go together.
Absolutely.
Okay. I also see that this stream creates a lot of problems. Okay. And so, obviously, most of the time when I want this insight, it is to be free of problems. Though when I was asking you half an hour ago, it was. Now, you are saying that you are telling me, you are in this stream, coming to jump out of it.
You can't.
You can't.
No. You can't jump out of it.
End this stream. That's what you're saying. And I am
pull
saying,
the plug out.
Yes, I'm saying deeply, subconsciously as well as consciously, that I can't do it. It's the only thing I know. It would be almost tantamount to committing suicide. You know, I can amplify that to the
Of course.
You're saying drop the only thing you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that I would like to do it, but I can't.
No. We're getting excited about the next stuff. I must go back. He's saying, David is telling me, as the brain is infinite, it's not personal. It's not your brain and my brain. That's very clear. I've been saying that earlier. It's not your brain. It's not my brain.
And
right?
Yes.
Therefore, it's nothing to do with persons.
Yes.
You see that very clearly? No, see it immediately.
No, sir. The difference between please let me explain this. I start by saying, if the brain is infinite, the rest follows what you're saying. Whereas you are saying, it's obvious the brain is infinite, therefore this is obvious, this is obvious. But the beginning of the whole process.
Because when he said that, I was listening to him. You follow? I wasn't arguing it. I can argue afterwards.
I know.
When he made that statement, I was on the top of it.
I know.
Why? No, analyze why.
Why?
I was listening. My mind was inquiring, listening, looking. And David drops a stone in that, and right? You are not listening. You are arguing. Is this so?
You, when you say you're listening, did you examine that statement at all?
No.
Whereas,
I didn't examine it. It's so.
so.
From that immediately it's not personal. Because it's infinite, it can never be personal. Brain, which the mechanical thought, he says, my brain.
I follow that. What you are saying is insight is perception or listening without any examination, which implies any analytical process at all.
Of course.
But then how do you know it's so?
No, because from that insight you can argue logically.
Are you saying that logic is necessary? No. If you couldn't argue it logically, wouldn't it still be there?
It wouldn't be there.
It wouldn't be there?
No.
So you're saying you see something and you can support it with logic.
Yes.
Then why isn't the converse true? Why can't you come to it through logic?
Logic is, of course.
No, because
Logic is brain.
logic depends on assumptions. You see, if you start with logic, you are starting with your past assumptions, which are wrong, right? You see, the difficulty, when you start from insight, you start from something new, a new perception. From there you can go on to reason with a new perception. But if you start from logic, you must be starting from what you know, which is always wrong, fundamentally.
Yes, of course. No.
I won't accept this so easily, but...
It is simple.
No, it's bound to be wrong in anything.
You said just now, thought is limited. Thought is mechanical. Logic is mechanical.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Right? Through logic, you can't come to the other.
All right. That I got.
Once you have that insight, thought can operate logically.
All right, sir. But how far can it go back? At some point, it comes to a self-evident assertion, which I know of already.
I don't follow.
What I mean is, so you're on the top of a mountain, and you can climb down to it. I'm at the bottom of the mountain. What I'm saying is that either we are on parallel paths, and there's no meeting point at all. Or if you can come down logically to this point, I can climb up logically to that point.
It's nothing to do with logic.
But
The insight has nothing to do with logic.
when you say it can be supported by logic later.
No. You used the word support. I didn't.
I think you could say it can be unfolded logically
Yes.
to communicate it. It's not really identical with the insight. It's a way of communicating insight by a logical expression, right?
Yes, it's a way of communicating.
Action and so on.
Yeah.
I'm saying, please correct me if I'm wrong, you cannot communicate it logically.
Logically you cannot communicate it.
So,
Because logic is thought.
exactly. So we come back. You
What?
either have it or you don't.
No.
You see, I think that insight changes the basis on which you reason. You see, one begins by reasoning on a false basis. That's the normal basis. Therefore, from where you are, you can't get anywhere. You see, there's nowhere to get from where we are to anything else. But see, if you have insight, then that is gone. And your reasoning is coming from insight, not from what you know, right?
Yes. In fact, if you have insight, there is no reason, there's no reason to reason it out. You have it. The reasoning process would be there only if you were trying to communicate it.
Well, or else to work, to apply it, right? If you want to apply your insight to make a computer, for example. Suppose you want from your insight to do something, right? Like insight into gravitation, then you might use it for something.
To find an application for that insight, you would need logic. But,
Look, the way it started out, we're saying thought is mechanical. Computer is mechanical. Right? Right? What thought can do, computer can do, up to a certain point. Thought is being mechanical. It can never capture that which is non-mechanical. Insight is non-mechanical. Right? Totally non-mechanical. Now, you listen to that. Don't argue. You've argued enough now to say thought is mechanical, computer is mechanical. Whatever thought can do, up to a certain point, computer can do. It can learn, it can relearn, it can adjust, it can do all that kind of thing which thought can do. All based on knowledge and so on and so on. We both agree to that. Right? Right? David tells me it's perfectly right up to that point. But that doesn't bring about insight. He tells me that. So I say, all right. I don't say, what am I to do? The moment I say, what am I to do, you're back in the cycle. Right? He tells me that. See that very clearly and don't move away from that. Right? Right? We've argued about this mechanical process in and out sufficiently. We can go much more in detail and so on, but we've got the principle of it. Right? You say, what's so? Don't move from that. Don't say, what is insight? If you don't move, it's that. I don't know if you...
Now I'm beginning to get it. I'm beginning to get it. I'm not saying I'm beginning to get it. I'm beginning to see what you're saying. Are you saying you see the mechanical process of your mind and just see it, that's all. And don't move from it. See it.
See it.
That's all. No.
You see it completely. You can add little bits and little bits here and there, add, subtract, but you see thought is mechanical. Moment you move away from that, it becomes mechanical. Right? If you see that stop there, you understand?
Yes, that's the thing. Any movement away from it.
Yes. Movement is time. We discussed this with David some years ago. Movement is time. Right, sir? If there is no movement of knowledge, I'm sure the ancient Hindus had this idea. What is it? Vedanta. Anta means to end, knowledge. So we say, how am I to end it? And I practice this, do this and do that, which is still the same wheel going round and round. I think this exactly happened when the brother died. Absolutely no moving from that.
From that sorrow?
From that sorrow. From that shock, from that feeling. didn't go after comfort, it didn't go after reincarnation, it didn't go after somebody, masters. I don't know if you're following me.
Yes, sir.
There is no other fact except that.
The mind stays with that fact.
See what happens if you stay with it. But by tragedy you get out of it.